doubt it.
Since they know they won
No,
the past 2
the
years.
sponsors are assigned.
Meeting to order. The time is 7:30. This is the regular council meeting for August 11th. Clerk, can you please do a roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss,
I'm here.
Councilman Fleming,
Here.
Councilman Meir,
Here.
Councilor Rohrbach,
Here.
Councilman Soltis. Here. Councilor Wright,
Here.
and Mayor Gravestein.
I'm here, thank you. The invocation and pledge this evening will be led by Councilman Fleming. I invite you to stand if you would like.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance as we begin this meeting. Give us clear mind and allow us to do the best of our abilities and to engage in meaningful discussion as we begin this meeting. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I please get a motion to appoint Annette Voucher as our acting city clerk?
Your Honor. So moved.
Thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor.
Yes.
Support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. First up, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions this evening? All right. Seeing none, we are going to go to meeting open to the public. This is the opportunity for the public to speak. Ask that you speak at the podium, keep your minutes to 3 minutes, keep your comments to 3 minutes. And with that, I'm going to open up public comment. And seeing no one wishing to speak, I'm going to close public comment, and we will move on to the consent agenda. There are 4 items. We have from the Director of Public Services, a bid award, Playground Mulch Phase 2. Director of Public Services, the scheduled replacement of vehicle number 100. From the City Manager, the Michigan Employees Retirement System, the MERS delegates and alternates for the annual meeting, and then the City Council regular meeting minutes for July 28th. Can I please get a motion to approve?
Your Honor, a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor.
Support.
All right, thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. Next up, we have communications. We have for the Michigan Municipal League annual meeting, the appointments of delegate and alternate.
Each year, the City Council selects one delegate and one alternate to represent the city at the Michigan Municipal League's annual meeting from those council members able to attend. This year's annual convention is being held September 17th through the 19th in Grand Rapids. It is recommended that Councilor Wright be named as the delegate and Councilor Meir be named as the alternate. Staff recommends that City Council approve Councilor Wright as the delegate and Councilman Meir as the alternate for the 2025 Michigan Municipal League Annual Convention. And as I think the report says, they are the 2 council members that have registered and expressed interest in going, and I asked them who wanted to do what, and they recommended this themselves. So,
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
Your Honor. Motion to approve.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor, I'll support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. And then last up, we have unfinished business, the festival table policy from July 28th.
So at the July 28th council meeting, council tabled the festival policy for further revisions. The festival policy presented for council's consideration permits official candidates for the Madison Heights mayor and council, as well as official candidates for offices that represent Madison Heights to each table to have a space for the festival in the park. This represents a change from the current staff policy, which only permitted incumbent office holders that represent Madison Heights to have table space. The proposed policy retains the ability for nonprofit organizations and/or Madison Heights city boards and commissions, festival sponsors, and city departments to also have table space. If council wishes to consider adopting this festival table policy, it must first formally remove this from the table and then make a motion to do so. So the first motion would be a motion to remove the festival table policy from the table. If it's removed from the table, then the next motion would be whatever the wish of council is to approve or disapprove. And one thing I wanted to highlight is there was a discussion about having a group table. So this actually is individual tables for those that wish to have tables. Of course, if you want to sit with somebody, more power to you, you can do that. So that's that.
Okay, so what is the wish of, okay, so can I get a motion from council to remove this from the table?
Your Honor,
Yes.
so moved.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor, all support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded to remove it from the table. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. And then, what is the wish of council now that this is in front of us?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that we approve the newly revised festival table policy as presented.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor, all support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes.
In city manager's opening comments, she mentioned official candidates for offices. I am, in the version that's in the agenda tonight, it says official candidates for Madison Heights mayor and city council positions. I want to be clear, we're talking about offering these spaces for people who are running for mayor and city council, but not necessarily for, state rep, state senate president, all the way up the line. I'm fine with this, actually, with it, keeping it to Madison Heights. It keeps it super local, it keeps it right here in our city, and doesn't overly politicize the situation. One of the other parts of the policy notes that tables may be utilized to meet and greet residents and to distribute non-campaign material and literature to festival guests. And it goes on to say participants may not leave any unattended stacks and so forth. But I just want to note that when you're, when you're a council member or the mayor and you have a table, you can have it as you can have a sign that says, Emily Rohrbach, Madison Heights City Council person, right? You can have that right on there. When you are a candidate, do we have to define what it means to have, because I would not want to put something up that says Emily Rohrbach for Madison Heights City Council, because that is a political advertisement as a candidate or as an incumbent. Either way, it's a political statement. So I don't know how we do this at this point, but I just want to note for those candidates who want to do this, they have to think about how they're going to present their own selves at the festival in a non-political manner. So it would be like Emily Rohrbach. Because you can't necessarily say, what am I doing here? Why am I here holding this table? Because I can't be a candidate. I can't be running for political office by sitting there. So I would love to hear my fellow council members, because we haven't discussed this, so I would like to hear anybody's thoughts on that.
So, Mayor,
Yeah, please.
I have one point of clarification before you start discussing that. On number .8 of the policy, it's like an add-on for these extra groups. So it actually says, upon timely request, table requests by special dignitaries and/or official candidates for offices that represent Madison Heights, such as governor, U.S. senators, U.S. Congress members, may be made and will be accommodated if feasible. Otherwise, any request outside this policy will not be considered. That would allow not only incumbents, but official candidates for those spots, and that was included because there was a lengthy discussion at the last council meeting about what we say, because we had people, the wording actually originally said people that had officially filed petitions, but then the conversation came up that that's not how people run for the state. So based on that, and I didn't exactly have clear direction, I thought that was the direction council wanted to go. So I kind of put it on as an add-in at the bottom, so it's not spelled out at the top, because I don't know how many requests that we're going to get. And I would like to note that this is the one time since I've been city manager, actually right before I was city manager, where we had someone running for a state office that could not have a table, so they showed up and walked around and handed out literature that ended up littering the park. So it would fall under 8, and they could have a table, and it could be more monitored that way. So that's why it's there.
Does that-
I mean, I guess I didn't realize it didn't register number 8 point out on the thing here, because I was really focused on the top bullet points there, but who is defined as participant. And I just don't love the idea of that, because of the way that it will inherently make it more political. And I know we'll end up with, some people will come and they'll hand out literature. I think we're asking for more trouble this way than the alternate. So that is my thought. I would
I mean, it's
prefer
up to
to
council.
remove
We can
number 8.
strike those, we can leave it just special dignitaries, but that's up to council.
So, hold on, sorry, okay, so the motion is to approve it as is, but you're saying that so you were originally in favor, but you're not in favor, you're in favor of 1 to 7?
I'm in favor of 1 to 7.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes?
I just want to reiterate my point last time is that this policy is not about people running for office or not. It's about engaging with the residents and the opportunity to engage. So by doing this, we're completely changing the entire purpose to fit a need that it's not intended for. This isn't about running for office. It's about incumbents being able to engage with residents in one of the biggest event of our city. So I think doing this kind of gets it incredibly murky, and it can, I mean, we were talking about phantoms a few meetings ago and things that could happen if certain people get in places, but this is setting the stage for, opportunities. For example, like, can we define what a special dignitary is? Or have it defined in this process? So, because what signifies a special dignitary?
Sorry.
Well, I think that's why we have the examples in there. So if we delete 8, I was going to say, staff needs to know direction. So if the governor calls me and wants to have a table, if you strike number 8, I would tell them no. I don't feel like I would tell them no. There needs to be something there to give us direction on what we do with other office holders that are not Madison Heights mayor and council. And that is where it says table requests by special dignitaries for offices, that's what it used to say, for offices that represent Madison Heights, and then in parentheses it said, such as the governor, U.S. senators, and U.S. Congress members. So we went back and added in and/or official candidates, so that was the only change and gave some clarity to what a special dignitary was. But I don't think we can completely strike that out. Either unless council doesn't want me to allow them to attend if they ask, but I don't know why we wouldn't do that, because we depend on these people for help many ways.
I just want to go back. Mr. Wright, you said something about phantom something?
Well, a couple of meetings ago, we talked about scenarios when future council's in place and needing to put in a policy to protect future councils. I'm saying along that line, this kind of creates a potential situation for future councils that have to mitigate with leaving it open to, but prior to that explanation, my focus is on, what specifically is a special dignitary. I did read the rest of the sentence about such as governors, U.S. senators, but in the future, could that be interpreted as, someone that they determine to be a dignitary who should have a table?
Okay, so I'm going to make a suggestion that we change number 8 and we actually say who they are. And so I'll give an example. So if, to me, the people who should be allowed there are the people who actually represent Madison Heights at the county, the state, or the federal level. So if the governor, the county executive, the president says, hey, I want a table, we say yes. The same token, someone who's a candidate And sometimes it's filling out petitions, sometimes it's paying a fee, whatever it is. You know, someone who is an official candidate would also be given that opportunity. Someone who does not represent Madison Heights, but, you know, like the Wayne County executive wants to have a table. We're not in Wayne County. I would say no. I don't know why they would want one. I'm just giving that as an example.
So just to clarify, reading this as the city manager and how I would implement it, it does already say that because it says special dignitaries and/or official candidates for offices that represent Madison Heights. And then the parentheses is just examples for,
Right.
you know, the general public, but it's
You're
not
right.
restricted to those three places. It would be any office that represents Madison Heights. That could be the attorney general, could be the governor,
Yeah.
could be Oakland County.
I think, I'm just trying to, Mr. Wright seems concerned about what we're calling a special dignitary. So
Yes.
this is, maybe take out the term special dignitary and just say a request by anyone who is, who does currently, whatever the wording is, an incumbent, or who does currently or is an official candidate for offices that represent Madison Heights, which I believe I've covered all the levels, and this just has a few of the examples. So we can either just say at the county, state, and federal, or we can spell out specifically, but there are a number of them. You know, if the Attorney General wants to be here, you know, whomever, you know, the treasurer wants to set up a table, again, the Wayne County treasurer, county executive, I would say no, but Oakland County, which is where we are, and they represent us, I would say yes. These
What
are
if
my
we
thoughts.
just say table request by elected office holders that represent Madison Heights?
I'm fine with that.
Your Honor,
Yes.
just two things. First, I wouldn't be okay if it was only the office holders and not any official candidates, because again, it goes down to fairness and picking winners and losers and accessibility. So I wouldn't be in favor of that. But I also trust staff, and the line says that table requests by those dignitaries and/or official candidates for offices that represent Madison Heights may be made and be accommodated if feasible. So the language is specifically geared to allow staff to be able to make that decision, and staff can make that decision consulting a majority of council if there's a question or there's a risk of some sort of an issue coming up. But I don't know. My whole thing on this is this policy, the one that's in front of us today, is pretty damn near the same policy that existed in the city for multiple decades. I had a table as a challenger. My dad had a table as a challenger all the way back in the early 2000s. This is not a huge change, but I did want to make sure, because there was some conflict amongst council at the last meeting, so I put out a poll on the Madison Heights, Michigan Community Cares Forum to ask our residents what they would want. And I listed out all of the different policies that had been discussed, and this policy that we are discussing today, with individual tables for members of council and for official candidates, won with 75% of the vote. The table policy that we have today, the existing policy, received one singular vote from our residents. And it's not an insignificant amount. I mean, I understand that around 60 votes, and with Facebook is a small sample size, but that's about 2% of the people who voted for proposal MH. So it's not insignificant. There's every age represented, every gender represented. I see folks who are active in our boards and commissions. I see residents' names that I've never met before. And so, as much as this is kind of administrative, taking a policy that council has never voted on and officially enshrining, I'd say, the historical version of the policy instead of the newer, more modern policy that was instituted by staff, I think this checks all of those boxes. It makes it fair. It's exactly the policy that the citizens would like to see, having access for official candidates for these positions, and inspiring that same dialogue. All of the reasons why we love to have a table as a candidate, are the same reasons we love to have a table as an office holder. I've had one as both. And I don't know about Councilman Soltis, but I think I might be the only person who has had a table both as a challenger and as an official candidate. I don't know if Mayor Grafstein as well, but it's no different. You cannot campaign, you're simply talking policy, positions, you're meeting people, introducing yourself in the same exact way. I think to the earlier point of what does a candidate label themselves, I think I labeled myself as just candidate for council, which is an official title in the same way that counselor is an official title. You filed, you're a candidate. So, I don't know, I don't think that the language is bad. I think it's pretty strong. I think it gives staff a lot of flexibility to be able to make some of these decisions. And I think that it allows for all of the same types of nonprofit organizations, boards and commissions, everybody that we've already had, festival sponsors. The only addition to this policy versus what has existed is the allowance for official candidates, which again is historically standard. We've lived more of our lives in this city with that policy than the current one.
Your Honor.
Just hold on one second. Okay, so when I said I approve this, I meant with the candidates. I was just tweaking number 8. Yes, go ahead.
I mean, first I want to address the poll that was done on Facebook. Mr. Bliss, I believe when I read your statement, it was really interesting because it was definitely not a, I know you're not a statistician that does professional polling, but it was such a skewed poll. It was like, why would you not want this policy that I think is amazing and all of these good reasons, or keep everybody out like the people on the other side want? Like, those were the choices. They were very skewed. So I'm not going to take your poll, I'm sorry, as a real pulse of the city, but, I read it and I read people's responses and it was interesting. But what I want us to do is to really think about keeping the festival in the park as non-political as possible. When we do the Memorial Day Parade, currently, and ever since I've been part of council or in most places around the state where I've participated in those kinds of things, it's only official candidates that can participate in it. Or not official candidates, only elected officials that can participate as a member. That's for 4th of July parades as well as Memorial Day parades, all kinds of things, because the organizers want to keep it apolitical. They allow the official candidates, people who represent the community, to be out there to greet their community and their constituents. But I think we are asking to change the nature of our premier community event into one that is inherently political. People don't come here for the fireworks to be like cheering for their presidential candidate, right? That's not why they're here. But when we open up and say, okay, let's have a ton of tables, we're going to have the Republican governor, and we're going to have the Democratic governor, and we're going to have all of these different factions, and it just turns into something that is inherently political. And those things can also turn ugly in a community that is, in a place that doesn't have to be. This is the Festival in the Park is a time of celebration for our community, people to come together and to celebrate the country that they live in, right? It is not a time for people to campaign for office. So I don't understand why. I mean, I understand you said you had a table as a challenger. Mr. Soltis had a table as a challenger. No, you did not?
Never did.
So I didn't, so you're the only one here that had a table as a challenger. And the rest of us all, we're still here. It didn't become impossible for us to become elected members of council or mayor because we were kept off of the thing and we couldn't communicate with the people. It feels disingenuous to me to say, well, this is the only way to be fair to our community. Instead, I feel like it is going to fundamentally change the nature of our community event in a way that would not be positive for our community. And I don't understand why this push for this right now. What is the real motivation behind it? Like I said at the beginning, I'm perfectly okay with candidates, official candidates who are running for Madison Heights mayor and council. I think that's fine. Let's get, this is our community. This is this small 30,000 person community. And, we have this opportunity to be together, and there's not the same kind of animosity that you have because we are our nonpartisan offices. And I think we can make our community event will still be the premier community event that it has always been. But I think that adding in official candidates from every level of government throws a wrench into what is a wonderful community event. And I don't want us to ruin that by throwing this policy in here as, on the whim of folks that frankly aren't going to be here when it's time. Like you're not going to be on council after November. So I really think that the official candidates for mayor and council, great. But beyond that, I think we should cap it. But if an elected governor wants to come to our festival in the park, yeah, I think the governor, whoever they may be, should be able to do that. So I'm going to stop there.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, let me respond to a few of those points because they were directly
Yes.
spoken at me. First and foremost, I think it's incredible to chastise a poll that no other member put out themselves. I think that is incredibly foolish. I went to the public. If there were people from the public who had an alternative viewpoint, they could have absolutely added them as comments. There were members of the public who added in their own options into that Facebook poll. And yes, I'm not a statistician. It's not an official poll. It's just something to gauge active members of the community on Facebook and see where that was. If it was super close, I would probably agree with you, and I would say that that's a statistical anomaly. But when the current policy gets one vote, and the policy that we're voting on today has like 75%, it's hard to say that that's skewed. But I understand why you'd want to say that. Secondly, I also listened to the city manager when she was talking about how a candidate was at the festival in the park, not at a table, walking around passing out literature that turned into a ton of litter. That's exactly the reason why you want to give them an option for the table, because otherwise you can't kick them out. It's a public park. It's free speech. So giving them the table helps to segregate it. And so if people want to experience the festival in the park with no politics, all they have to do is not walk up to a table with politicians. And it can be segregated and it can be put to the side. And I don't understand why the anger and animosity for a vote like this. I feel like we can just either agree to disagree or move on with our lives. I think we've had a lot of time to debate and talk about this, more so than probably anybody ever needed. And so for me, you asked the why am I doing this, because I'm not even going to be here. First, I recommended a change to the policy before the last festival, before I even decided whether or not I was going to run. Secondly, I think this policy goes back to the policy that I know myself and others thought it was. I get that, but cleaning up this policy, I think if you ask any resident about fairness, if they're simply asked the question, do you want only the people who hold that office, or would you also like to be able to meet people officially running for those offices? I think 90% of the time, maybe even higher, they're going to want that inclusion. So I'm firmly in favor of it. I'm okay with striking number 8 completely, because my focus is not on whether or not a candidate or challenger for governor is going to show up here and have a table. I don't even know if that'll happen. So I'm cool with striking that. My purpose for bringing this up and making the motion is simply to allow for official candidates to once again be able to have those tables. And it's not even going to be relevant for 2 years. But I think we still need to do it.
Great, thank you. Is there any other comments?
You're on. Council, what do you want?
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to make a motion, but you.
Oh, okay, so I will say that I'm not angry about this. I just am passionate about it, and I'm sorry that we think that it's, that this is anger, because I'm not angry. I think it is the way that it's being posed as this will segregate it and people will still come and do what they want to do. Like, that, we always see that. Somebody is always out there trying to hand out little handbills of some sort or another, right? It always happens. There's always a mess after the festival in the park, and it has to get cleaned up. But I think that adding on official candidates for levels outside of the city of Madison Heights opens us up to a detrimental change to our community's signature event. And I would suggest that we, instead of striking number 8 altogether, because City Manager Marsh has indicated she needs some sort of direction here on this, but instead of striking that altogether, just having that number 8, I've lost it in my tabs here, okay, having that number 8 say, upon timely request, table request by special dignitaries and/or official candidates, or, sorry, let me read it again. Upon timely request, table requests by currently elected people, I don't know, something that represent Madison Heights, such as, so forth, may be made and will be accommodated if feasible. I think that is a reasonable change, and it is, it is not going back, we're not going back to a policy that was like last year, it changed and we go changing it. It's a policy that's been here for, at least 6 years. And I think, before that, I think, Mayor, you had that policy, the policy that's currently being, like, you couldn't get a table at the festival in the park.
I never tried to get a table.
Okay, well.
I didn't actually know about this until May, I think it was, it was before the festival when this was brought to my attention.
So I was
So-
aware because I tried to get a table and I was like, oh, disappointed, but not the end of the world, right? I made an effort as a candidate to talk to people in other ways. And as I know, many of us have, we go door to door, we do what we have to do, we do mailers, we do other things. But I don't understand why we have to change it in order to open up official candidates for offices outside of Madison Heights.
Okay.
Why are we doing
I
that?
just want to clarify what I think you've said, okay? You are fine with 1 to 7, which is mayor and council elected or candidates, official candidates. You are okay with incumbents who represent Madison Heights at whatever level. You are not okay with challengers for offices outside of mayor and council?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to sort of summarize that.
Yes, that
that's
is
where you're
correct.
at. Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I feel like I need and want to clarify something about why I'm opposed to this and go back to, the whole point is to not make Festival at the Park political. And also, it's a little frustrating for me to hear us talk about inclusion and talk about, this whole process about being more inclusive, because that's not the goal of it. The whole point of Festival in the Park is for constituents to engage with elected officials. We are literally contorting this, and framing is important. And it's challenging for me personally to trust Facebook groups, particularly when I experience prejudice, racism, and bias in those groups personally. I cannot see everyone's post. I cannot see all of the things that are put in there. I hear about it, but we have to really understand at the core of what we're trying to do. And this is not, we're making this a political thing, and it's not meant to be. It's about engagement with the public. The police are there engaging with the public. So are the elected officials. It's just about engaging with the public as constituents. If we turn this into a political event, going into the climate that we're going into, we cannot rely on biased Facebook groups where everyone cannot equally post comments because some people are blocked and can't see everything. Like, we can't include that in our fact-finding because it's already biased, because it's not an equal platform. No social media is equal. It's just what you feel. There's no equality to it. There's no equity, and it's just a place where people can say whatever they want without a filter. So we can't take that into consideration when making public policy for the city. It's just, it's not the right decision, in my opinion.
Your Honor,
Okay, sorry, who was that? Sorry.
Your Honor,
Yes.
let me just clarify for council where we're at the moment in terms of what's on the floor. Motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, supported by Councilman Fleming, to support the newly revised table policy that's attached to the agenda. If the maker of the motion and support want to make amendments to it, they can. They would both have to agree, or a substitute motion could be made relating to number 8 as revised, but something has to be, before there's a vote, either we're voting on the original policy, the revised policy, I should say, as drafted, or council needs to do something else to clarify its position on what they're taking a vote on.
Yeah, no, that's fine, thank you. We're still in discussion, so I don't think,
problem.
I still have things to say, but I'm giving everybody else the opportunity to do so. And Counselor Rohrbach had, has made her point, so I think if there's going to be any kind of substitute, it would come from her, but I'm not suggesting that she do that. I think we need to have this discussion because I think it's very, very important. And to the point that I believe that Pro Tem Bliss is the only person who has had the table as a challenger. Apparently Counselor Rohrbach requested one. I never did. And when I had my table, I gave it to the ECC when we did a plant sale, or not plant sale, we did a plant exchange. So, yeah, I do think though that it isn't, I'm going to let everybody else speak. I just wanted to let you know that we're in discussion now. Is there anyone else who has something? Did you have?
Yeah. I hate to see this happen today, and especially as I'm walking off with my tenure. But, I mean, is there like a middle ground that we can come to? Some middle ground?
Well, and it sounds like Counselor Rohrbach has.
I feel like I'm
a
making my
suggestion.
suggestion
Yeah.
is the
She's
middle
got her
ground that
suggestion.
I'm putting out there.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, I think that I agree with Councilor Rohrbach here with making the changes, and I know you want to give your comments too. So I'm willing to make an amendment after you make your comments on making these changes.
Okay.
That's my position
All right.
here.
Yeah, no, I would like to make my comments. Anybody else before I make my comments? Okay. So I think that, I agree that this should not be this is not and should not be a political event. And with respect to the parades, I have been to parades where there are candidates and they walk around with a sign saying, vote for me for X. And I've also seen people who say, hey, I'm your X representative. So I've seen that, and I do feel that, I do know that in Madison Heights, which is, the parade is outside of the city scope, it's privately run, but I do know that it has always been incumbents only, and that there have been times in the past where a challenger will show up and the parade committee will say, hey, you can't do that. And we've had incumbents who are also running for something else, and they've made sure that what they're showing, what they're doing is saying, hey, I represent you here, not the I want to represent you there. So that does happen, but I do feel that in the last few years, our parade has become more political with, incumbents carrying large signs saying, hey, look at me, I'm your X representative for whatever it is. And the Memorial Day Parade, for me, is really about the veterans that we lost and their families and the Gold Star mother and the veterans that we still have. It's not about me or the rest of council, and I don't think, well, other than veteran Sean Fleming, I don't think it should be about us, which is why I've never carried a sign or anything like that, because I don't think people are there to see me. I could be wrong. With this, I actually wanted, I think it was on the poll, I wanted to have all of the incumbents sitting together and all of the challengers sitting together. And the reason I wanted that is because we have to work together. And I know that, when you run for mayor, there's one spot. And when you run for, I think, every other representative who represents us, there's one spot. But when you run for council, there's 3 spots. So people who are running, you're going to be working with them. So why not get to know them, sit at a table with them? This is the challenger side, this is the incumbent side. Get to know these people because you are going to be working with them. And, and we saw this when Mark Bliss ended up being a write-in, and he reached out to all of the people who were running. And he said, listen, I want one of the 3 spots, just like you want one of the 3 spots. And, I get back on, I would love if you would help support me. And most of them said, yeah, I get this. I get that this is a team effort, and as much as I want to be on council, I get that, it's a team effort. And if I get on, there's a really good chance I'm going to be working with you as well. And so I actually wanted that, but it's not an option, and I'm not going to take this by trying to throw that in there. I think that, I think we need to take out the term special dignitary. I think we need to specify anyone who represents Madison Heights. And I think that if we're going to allow the governor or the president or whomever who is the sitting representative to have a table, then we need to let the challenger have the table as well. And I think that this actually is something that, this helps reduce the barriers for these challengers. I don't remember who said it, but last time we talked about this, I believe, someone had made the comment about not all the residents can get out to a council meeting. We have 3 people in our audience today. That not all the residents can get out here. Not all residents can make office hours. I know that current members, Fleming and Wright, have had office hours. I know, and actually Bliss has in the past, and I know that Councilman Corbett hasn't, used to have office hours. But my understanding is they don't get a lot of people. There's not a lot of traction. People don't necessarily come to that. And so by having this, if you have something where people can be like, oh, look, there's my mayor, or there's the council person, there's the rep for the arts board, I really want to talk to them about X, they can go over and they can talk to them. And at the same time, it allows challengers that same opportunity, and I think it helps reduce the barriers for that. So I'm fine with 1 to 7. I'm fine with 8 the way it is. I think that's where Councilor Rohrbach has her concerns. Councilman Fleming, I don't know what you wanted to do, but that's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to be out there with what this was and what my thinking was. My preference is we have the 2 tables, but I'm not going to ask for a motion for that. So, Mr. Fleming, you were going to, if you wanted to make.
Your Honor.
What you wanted to do.
Well, he was deciding it.
Does
Okay.
Council Wright have something else to say?
I think we've all demonstrated up here that we have our own bias and our own viewpoint on how things happen. And this isn't the place right now to kind of figure it out. I think there's still much discussion to be had about this motion and this rule change that we're bringing forward. I think that, to Councilman Soltis' point, I think we do need to find a better mutual ground with this, and it's not here. It's not where we are. So I think we should either table this or not pass it as is, because, again, if we want the event to be apolitical, then we shouldn't invite more politics into it. It's like insanity. We're doing the complete opposite to get the other way. Let's not do that. If we want this to not be a political event, then let's don't invite more politics into the fray. No, we can't keep people from walking around. No, we can't people from handing out handbills, but we also don't need to set a table for it either. So I think we need to like really pull this back, not because obviously I'm no for it, as you guys can tell. If you can't, I'm a no. But at the same time, we're just not at a place where we can even come to common ground. So it obviously needs to be rehashed a little bit more, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment that, to number 8,
Excuse me, Your Honor, hold on one second, please. The maker of the motion would have to agree to,
Okay, that's fine.
would be making an
All
amendment,
right.
and you would have to agree as support, but you could make a substitute motion, which would be voted on first. Is that what you want to do?
if the maker can, wants to
yeah.
accept an amendment
Does the maker want to make a change?
with the wordage as we,
What would be the words?
I
Are we
bel-
striking 8, or are we keeping half of 8? What is?
It's my understanding that it would now read, and correct me if I'm wrong, but upon timely request, table request by current elected office holders that represent Madison Heights, such as governor, U.S. senators, U.S. Congress members, may be made and will be accommodated if feasible. Otherwise, any request outside this policy will not be considered.
It's basically what Counselor Rohrbach has asked for.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Could I just get, I guess, clarification from the members who want this? What the difference would be between, so the sitting governor is term limited. So then if both challengers wanted to come, we would say no. But the second that one of those two challengers win the election, the next year they call up and they say, I want to be here. And we're like, you got the title, you get to be here. Is that?
That's how I would implement it,
That's
yes.
how I understand it. Is that Counselor Rohrbach?
That is how I understand it.
And can I ask, I guess, the reasoning why? I mean, I'm, I guess, very interested in ending this discussion, and if we can do it in a 5-2 or 6-1 kind of way, I'm all for that type of collaboration. But I guess I'm just trying to understand why we wouldn't want that challenger who's representing the viewpoints of a big percentage of the city if we're allowing the person who currently holds the office. I mean, I think what I'm hearing from Councilor Wright is if it was just no tables, he would be much more in favor of it because then there wouldn't be any politics in it. But I think if we're saying this office holder can be here, but they can't, I just want to understand kind of the rationale behind that before I amend the motion.
You're on, please.
Can I clarify my stance? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying incumbents should be allowed to have a table. Because you're not running for office every year, so what do you just not have a table when you're not running? The whole point is to engage with the constituents. So you're not just gonna have a table when you're running. I've had a table consistently since I've been on council, period, full stop. It didn't interfere with anyone. I wasn't campaigning every year. It was the best opportunity to engage with constituents because they don't all know all of us. They only see snippets and parts. And so I feel like, again, we're getting away from the spirit and the letter of it, focused on making it political. It's not about politics. It's literally about Festival in the Park being a celebration of Independence Day and freedom. It's not about political candidates. It's not a debate. It's not a political event. We're making this a political event right now, literally. And yes, we do participate in parades, and some of us have banners. I've had a banner before. We're supposed to. It's how our constituents get to know us. Those are some of the only times they get to see us, ever, as we talked about. They don't come always to our office hours because they're working and they have family. So, again, I feel like we're having the wrong debate around this policy. So we're talking about making it political now when it's not. And we're making it that way, and it's favoritism, and I just don't think we should do it. It doesn't seem like we're coming about it in the right way.
It's favoritism.
Favoritism from the perspective of setting it up to make it a political thing, debate, when that's what Not Festival in the Park is about. This isn't a political event, and we're trying to make it one.
You're on.
Festival in the Park is a fireworks event, right? And we're talking about making it a political event by allowing both incumbents and challengers to have a table. So that's making it more about politics and less about just a community event.
Your Honor, just really quick, if I may, it was a community event for many decades with this policy we're voting on today, before it was a community event without this policy,
But then it was changed then.
but not by a vote of council. And so what we're doing here today is we are debating and taking a vote on what this policy should be. And I'm just giving the historical context. We used to have 3 different festivals, and all 3 festivals, through the summer festivals, could have challengers based on older policies. And so I agree with what you're saying in the context of I don't want this to turn into a political event, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that it does if you've got everybody segregated into tables, and then that solves a lot of problems with people just walking around, handing out whatever they want, or even there was a guy with a bullhorn in years past. So like there is a real benefit to it, and I understand that you don't agree, and I appreciate that, and I'm willing to make the amendment onto 8, you know, if I can understand the rationale a little bit more, if we can get that amendment done, if that gets this discussion done, moved over with, and hopefully, you know, a little bit more consensus on council, because I do want to find, as Councilman Soltis said, you know, what is the middle ground? But I do not want us to inflate this in like, we are now injecting politics, because if office holders have been there, there's politics ingested just by the nature of somebody being there in an election year. And I know not every year's an election year, but if they are in an election year, having them there but not the challengers is a challenge to me. That's a problem. And historically, it was always the other way. And I don't know why it was changed. I've talked to some members. I have some theories from that time that I'm not going to make public. But I can't really speak to why the change happened, but I can speak to the fact that this policy, as we're discussing it today, is pretty much the same policy that had all the festivals for multiple decades. So it
Okay,
shouldn't change too much of the
No,
experience.
I just want to do a clarification. Okay, so our role as mayor and council is to create policy. We each have 1 vote, okay? And so Councilman Soltis wants to do X, and nobody agrees with him, he doesn't get support, it doesn't happen. Same with all of us, same with me. Can I get a motion to ban squirrels? No one makes that motion, we can't ban squirrels, okay? So that is our role, is policy. Once we come up with a policy, it is the job of staff to implement it. Now, as we're coming up with policies, we want to put a police officer on every single corner, staff is going to be like, that's a great idea, we don't have the budget for it. So they will guide us, they will tell us, okay? With this situation, and this is an explanation for our residents, okay? With this situation, there was a policy that was in place that allowed challengers to have tables. At some point, it did not come before council to make a policy change, and staff made an administrative change for whatever reason, and I don't think that they knew that this was going to turn into all of us, but they made this change, and it was brought to my attention in May, I think it was before the festival this year, and it sounds like Councilor Rohrbach knew that this had been that this was the policy, but she may not have known what the past policy was. I don't know what anybody else knows other than Mr. Bliss, who knows that there were 2 policies, but I didn't even know about this until May. And so now that we are aware there is a policy, we have to make a decision, what do we want the policy to be? So this is just for an explanation for our residents, because there have been terms that have been used here about policy and administrative changes. That, I believe, is what happened here. So Councilor Rohrbach wanted to say something.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to clarify.
Mr. Bliss asked me why I think that we shouldn't have the official candidates, and I think I've said it pretty clearly, but this time that we're living in is not 2010, right? Like, the political climate that we are in is much more fraught and much more likely to invite conflict, unfortunately. And part of the reason that I am very much opposed to having, both candidates and official elected officials beyond the City of Madison Heights folks, is really because I foresee a situation where you've got, let's say you have three, like, in the governor's race coming up, right? We know we're going to have an independent, in addition to a Republican and a Democratic governor candidates. All three of them want to be there. And some might get real mad at the other. And then it turns into, like, let's put all these people that are running against each other, all in a row. And while I would hope that everybody, all of the candidates, their staff, and the people who support them would behave perfectly like angels, I anticipate that it's likely that conflict may arise. And I don't want our premier community event to become a place where conflict is a brewing simply because we have these tables. Now, I'm not saying that, like, if the governor has a table, somebody's gonna come over and say, I hate you, governor, no matter who they are, right? That's still part of it. But you get two groups together that are diametrically opposed and don't support one another. And that is an invitation for just more unnecessary conflict. And I think that preventing that conflict down the road is reason enough to try and keep some of this out of it. But I think it's also a completely reasonable ask to have people who represent, like Councilor Wright said, people who represent the community to be there to engage with the community that they represent. And not necessarily invite every Joe or Joanna who is running for that same office to all be there together. I just think it invites more political strife than what we want or need in our community in a special event like this.
All right, thank you. Councilman Soltis, you had something?
Your mayor, I like squirrels,
I was using it as an
so I don't need
example.
anyone like cussing me out for it. I feed them every morning.
I actually used your example as accent as me banning squirrels. Yeah, no, that's fine, and thank you for a little bit of levity. Okay, Mr. Bliss, does that answer your question? I don't know where you're at with this now.
Yes, Your Honor, I also like squirrels, so that does answer that. No, I think that that's fine, and if there are requests that come in next year in the off year, I'm okay with council considering it at that time, as long as we can get the policy done for local candidates, anybody who's an official candidate within the city, because we also need to point out the fact of the matter is fourth place and sometimes even fifth place in our elections often find themselves at this table in the middle of a term where hardly anybody has maybe known them or been exposed to them, and there is a huge added benefit to them being there at the festival in the park, meeting with, future constituents, because we typically every 4 years have at least we flirt with a vacancy, if not have one, and we've had quite a few over the last decade. So I think that is the main problem that I'm trying to solve, and so if that gets this done and we're able to come to a consensus on it, I will amend my motion to strike the official candidates line on number 8, and we'll queue that up for a future council.
All right, Councilman Fleming, you support that?
I support.
Okay, so just to clarify, the motion on the table now is to approve the revision of 1 to 7 as is, and number 8 as incumbents who currently represent Madison Heights. Challengers for outside city are not going to get the table, but current representatives of Madison Heights will. Okay, that is the current motion. All right. Any other discussion, comments?
Your Honor, can we get a roll call?
All right. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss,
Yes.
Councilman Fleming,
Yes.
Councilman Meir,
Yes.
Council Robach,
Yes.
Councilman Soltis,
Yes.
Councilor Wright,
No.
and Mayor Grafstein.
I vote yes, so this is approved. It passes 6-1. All right, and that concludes our regular meeting. I invite closing comments, starting with Councilman Meir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a reminder to the two or three people, and we normally
27.
20, oh, great, we got a big crowd tonight, good. I stopped at the compost bin on the way here tonight, so just a reminder that that is over by the DPS building, and please utilize it. One thing I've noticed whenever I use it is there's always some plastic bags in there. And I want to remind residents that that's not supposed to be. I know it's kind of a pain emptying those plastic bags with your food, but it's for compost only. Maybe a suggestion I had is maybe we could put a trash can over there somewhere. Because I can see people emptying their bag and not want to put that bag back into their cars. If we had a trash can, maybe they could utilize that and keep it out of the compost bin, but we've been doing very well with that. Lots of fun things going on in the city. Coming up, we have our third concert on Wednesday night. It's going to be a good one, as the other two have been. We have a wonderful karaoke event on Thursday. If anybody wants to come out and join me and Friends in Low Places, I'd love to have you out there. So those are both at 7 o'clock at the band shell. The Madison Heights Community Coalition and the Parks and Recs golf outing is on Friday, 7 a.m. sharp. So hope to see a lot of folks out there. That's a big fundraiser for them. So, and I'm sure that if you're interested in golfing, if the deadline's passed, I don't remember exactly when it is, but I'm sure we could squeeze you in if you want to get out there at the crack of dawn and hit the course. So, lots of other wonderful things going on at the library and with the Parks and Recs. So please check their websites for all of the events going on. Lots of fun stuff going on in the summer. It's just an FYI to all those folks that want to reach out to me. I'll be out of office for the next week. So I'm going on a cruise for my wife's birthday. So we'll be gone from Sunday to Sunday. That's it, Your Honor. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Pro Tem Bliss?
Yes, Your Honor. As Councilman Meir said, there's several events coming up. You got the couple of concerts still coming up. The one on Wednesday is Weekend Comeback. They are a pop rock, like top 40 kind of band. They'll play a nice mixture with a lot of modern music. And I say modern, and I define that as in the last 20 years. My kids would define some of those as oldies, but I will define it as modern. Now, the oldies band, Dr. Smith, is playing at the festival the last Wednesday of the month. They will be playing a lot of classic rock songs from the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, which again, I classify as oldies. But I've also been told that the Spice Girls are oldies. So take that information as, like, however that makes you feel is how it made me feel too. I also want to point out that Trail Tunes is coming up on September 6th, ending the Summer of Music put on by the Arts Board. We've got a fantastic lineup, 8 of the absolute best and most incredible bands in the local area. About half of them are brand new to Trail Tunes. So if you've come to the festival before, you're going to experience it brand new with some new music this time. And if you have come before and you want some of the same old, Not only are our last year's winners, K-Fabe, the People's Band, going to be playing the band shell during the entirety of the day, but you're also going to have a handful of other, we'll say, historical Trail Tunes bands, folks that have been on the trail with us for multiple years. So it's a nice mixture, and I encourage everybody to come out. Finally, I want to point out, we've got a planning commission meeting on the 19th, I believe. Somebody can correct me if it's wrong. But I've gotten tagged in a handful of different posts on Facebook about that. And, I'll call it out here as well. There's a discussion that I kicked off at Planning Commission, and the commission spent a lot of time and effort debating. Staff took a lot of time and effort to do research, and it's basically correcting what is a, let's say, outdated policy as it relates to zoning, where any church needed to be zoned, and effectively for our residents, like a really basic residential type of zoning, and it didn't matter where they were situated. And so we went by property, trying to make sure that when, the church is looking to be able to make a move, and we've had that happen 2 times now in just the last 4 years, where a church was looking to move, and I think in both times they went to a bigger facility. But in both of those times, they've had to attend multiple meetings. One, it was like 4 different public meetings that they had to attend to be able to turn the church into a daycare. And so this process and what's going through planning, and then what would ultimately make it to council if it were successful in planning, is to take each of those and align the zoning with the properties around them, instead of just the existing zoning of, well, you're a church, so you have to be residential. And there's a lot of historical context behind it. I just don't think that it fits in with modern times, and so we are updating that. If you've seen things on Facebook about, the city shutting down churches or anything, simply not true. In fact, we're saving these churches a lot of time, effort, and money that they're now paying to different attorneys and their fees to be able to shepherd these things through when they want to make any changes or movements. It also makes their property value higher if they're on a property that's zoned and has many other uses and options. Most of these churches should probably not be a single-family home, let alone, a multifamily home, depending on the location of where it is, if it ever ceased being a church. So, again, I've commented on it a handful of times on Facebook. I'm sure people will keep tagging me in, and I will keep communicating there where the people are. But if you are watching this and you saw it and you were curious about it, hopefully that answers some of your questions. Feel free to reach out to me if it doesn't. And if you'd like to be here for the public discussion that the Planning Commission is going to have, that'll be August 19th at 5:30. That's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Counselor Wright?
All right, so, hey, September 13th, start your engines. Revenant in the Heights is around the corner. It's going to be a fantastic event. We have our presenting sponsor in Priority Waste Management. They're going to bring out some cool surprises. One, I'm going to just tell you. We're going to get the Penske Grand Prix car is going to be a part of Revenant in the Heights, and we got a bunch of other cool surprises they're not really surprises, they're things we're working on. I'm calling them surprises, but for the kids, we're gonna have a Lego section where they can build cars and build little minifigs, so it's gonna be a great event, and I wanna invite everyone to come out. Car show, this is Motown, so car shows are the thing to do, so what a great way to experience culture and experience your neighbors in person. Than that, I think we sometimes forget that, we don't forget, but we all have our own algorithms on social media, and we have to remember it puts us in silos, and so we only see people who agree with us. So if you guys aren't in those groups, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me if you have questions about Revenant in the Heights or in general. You can also reach out to me on social media as well, but let's just remember to be kind and remember we all have our own perspective.
Thank you. Mr. Sherman?
Just one comment, Your Honor. I I attended a celebration of life on Friday for a person who I've known since he was in the 7th or 8th grade. His name is Tom Staten. He happens to be Counselor Wright's uncle. Tom Staten and I, the connecting piece was Tom Staten's coach in high school was my mentor and coach. And from the time I met him in the 7th or 8th grade, you could see that he just had greatness written all over him, not just as a basketball player, but really as an incredible person. He was an ordained reverend. His family, the Staten family, is just filled with ordained reverends, and a very accomplished family. And he passed a couple of weeks ago at age 68. The who's who of Michigan basketball was there watching him. Bobby Knight of Indiana was a frequent visitor to the Ferndale High School gym to watch Tommy Staten play. And he touched so many people. It's a great loss to this community. And I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that loss, and my condolences go out to his wife Wanda, his son Amari, all of the Staten family, the extended Staten family, and the Wright family. We just lost just a tremendous person. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mrs. Marsh?
I just want to thank everybody who came out to the Parks and Recreation Master Planning meeting last week. We had about 20 people show up, and since then I've received numerous emails to follow up on that, so it was great, and it really is going to add to that new master plan. The survey is still open until August the 15th. We've already collected about 800 survey results. That might not seem like a big deal to all of you, but that's a huge accomplishment. We hired a consultant 5 years ago, and they only got 440 responses. So we're doing this entirely in-house. We've had numerous community engagement events, and as you just heard, we're hitting it out of the park with the survey. We are going to be having another meeting on August the 25th before our next council meeting at 6 o'clock, from 6 to hopefully 7 or 7:15 right now. And that's going to go through the overview of the survey results and the public engagement feedback that we received. So keep that in mind. It's open to the public. We will be inviting boards and commissions and council and planning and Parks and Rec. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Anything from the clerk's office?
Nothing tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Rohrbach?
Two things, really. Well, three. Mr. Muir, or Councilor Muir, or whatever. I just wanted to say thank you for mentioning the compost bins. The ECC was really instrumental in getting those put out there, and 6,654.31 tons of food waste as of the last ECC meeting, which was last month, have been diverted year-to-date using those bins. That means that 6,654 tons of food waste have gone through those bins, and they're the ones out by the DPS as well as at the fire station. And, you know, getting that as part of the culture and the way that we live here in the city of Medicine Heights is huge. And also, I know my mom throws compostable plastic bags into those things when she puts hers in there, so maybe you've seen some of those. Let's hope they're all compostable at this point, the ones that go in there. Second, I just want to second what City Manager Marsh said about the second meeting with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and the Planning Commission and everybody to talk about that 5-year master plan for the Parks and Rec Board. It's going to be so important to have as much community input as possible because those 5-year plans really do set the stage for what we're able to accomplish in the next 5 years, more than anything else. Because if it's not in that master plan, you know, when staff are looking at grants or funding opportunities or just anything at all about what we're going to do in the next year when they're creating budgets and all kinds of stuff, if it's not in there, it's not top of mind. It's not something that's necessarily going to get accomplished. So if we can make sure that what we really want to see gets in there, then we can work towards it. Because if we know where we're going, we can actually arrive. And finally, I just also want to express my condolences to Councilor Wright and his family. I worked with Tom for a few months before he retired, and more than anything else, he was extraordinarily kind. And I just loved working with him. And it was a big loss to our work community when he left, and it's a big loss to this world for him to be gone. So my condolences. Thank you.
Councilman Fleming?
Yeah, so I know today we had a big conversation about the table policy, and I want to say I'm pretty happy that our council was able to come to a vote and make a decision, whether the decision was the outcome that each one of us wanted or not. But I think it showed that we can really come together and have a debate and not get angry with each other and have an outcome of a vote that is a contentious vote. And that's all I have to say today.
All right, thank you. Councilman Soltis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Larry, did you say you played basketball? Is that right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Tom Staten and I were both voted as in the top 100 players in Oakland County in the last 50 years.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. Well, thank you. And the reason I'm in the Michigan Jewish Sports Hall of Fame is because of my mentor and coach, who Tom Staten was very close with. And I neglected to say, he said no to Bobby Knight when he was being recruited by Indiana, instead went to Michigan. And as a freshman, he played in the national championship game against Indiana, who ended up winning the game and had an undefeated season. But he was absolutely remarkable, and people still talk about some of the legendary battles he had here against Berkeley, especially, who had a star player by the name of Bruce Flowers, who went to Notre Dame. So it was, I know I'm walking down memory lane, but thank you for mentioning it.
What about your stats?
Well, okay.
Another time.
He's got a ring.
Yeah, that's not just the ring. I have a record that has stood now for 56 years, 51 points in the game. I know it's hard for the council to believe, but it's true. And we lost that game, by the way.
You said you played college ball?
I played college at Harvard.
Oh, I thought it was high school.
College,
Oh,
too.
wow.
Yes,
For you.
thank you.
I missed the part where you said at Harvard.
Anything else? No.
No,
Good? All right, okay. So I want to thank everybody I also want to thank everybody who came out last week. I had some really good conversations, not during the presentation because that would have been rude, but when we were off and we had to go and we had to mark up on the boards, I had some good conversations with people just about things that I hadn't thought about, and I'm hoping that one of the emails you got was from this woman who I had a really good conversation, and I said to her, I don't have a card. You need to email the city manager, because she just had a ton of really good ideas. So hopefully, as that comes through, we will be able to make these changes so that our parks are accessible for everyone. Because I know that that's a goal of mine. I know it was a goal of Councilman Corbett's, and I'm hoping it's a goal of everybody, current and future councils. So tonight, we had quite a lengthy conversation about policy. And, a few years ago, we were able to streamline a lot of our votes to a consent agenda. It was something I had talked to the clerk about, and during COVID, when we were doing our votes, every single vote had to be a roll call. We're approving minutes, and we had to do a roll call. And so when we came back, I said, okay, what else can we change? And we talked about setting up the consent agenda. So a lot of times, especially in the last few years, our votes have been really quick. But what you don't see is the work that goes behind a lot of them. For example, Mayor Pro Tem Bliss was talking about this change with the zoning for churches. This was a conversation he and I had a few months ago. He brought it up at the Planning Commission. And it's in process. We talked about it. And that took a lot of time. There's a lot of things that council here votes on that other boards, DDA, planning, have spent a lot of time working on, and staff has spent a lot of time working on. And tonight, we had a policy conversation, and because of the specifics and because it was so complicated, it wasn't something that could have just been done in an email. A lot of times, it would be something like, councilperson this, wants to do such and such. Well, councilperson wants to do another thing, and we can have conversations with each other, with the city manager, and come up with something. This one, it really didn't, but I do appreciate that we were able to come up with a compromise, because that's what it means to work on a team, is to compromise. You know, I know that I'm not always going to get everything I want. I know that I usually don't get everything I want, you know, but I know that I'm one vote. And so I really like the idea of having all of the incumbents at one table, all the challengers at the other. But that was just me, and no one seemed to want that. And so I said, okay, this is my number one choice. What's my number two? I'm gonna vote in favor of my number two, because I think it's really important. So just a reminder that we all have that one vote. And so anything that has been my idea, or Pro Tem Bliss, or Councilman Soltis, you know, over the last 8 or 12 years, anything that we can say, hey, this was my idea, that may be true, but we all had to get the majority of council to approve that. And, you know, like I said, if I said I wanted to ban squirrels or something like that, I'd need to get, besides the fact that that's not even a realistic one, you know, I'd need to get all of council, or a majority of council, to agree. So just remember that what you saw tonight was the way, actually, that we are supposed to work. You know, a conversation, a respectful conversation. I heard what you said, this is what I'm thinking. You know, Pro Tem Bliss said, can you give me a bit more explanation on that? And he listened to what was said, and he said, okay, based on that, I'm going to make this change. He could have said, I've heard what you've said, and I'm still not agreeing with you. And that would be his choice, but he made the choice to say, I'm going to make that change. So this was actually what council's about. We have a ton of events. We talk about events all the time. You know, Arts Board does a ton of things. There's the Brevin in the Heights, you know. There's all sorts of things that we do, but this is actually what our job is. And to the point about social media is very skewed. And so you can look at wherever on social media, and you see pictures of, look at me at this event, you know, here I'm doing this, you know, I went to a ribbon cutting, I spoke at an event, whatever. But you don't know a lot of what we do. It's really, really boring to be like, oh, I just sat for 2 hours and talked to somebody about why their garbage wasn't picked up. Let me take a picture of that. You know, there's a lot of things that we do that you don't see, and a lot of the conversation that we had here, that's part of it. With respect to the compost, I'm so excited because when I originally rebooted the ECC, having food compost, I wanted it picked up at the house, but this is a great start, because I know that that's eventually going to happen, but that's way, way down there. So I love this, and I have composters at home, so I've always used them, but I can't put in eggshells. They take forever. They take years to go down, and you know, meat, like bones and stuff like that. So I just keep a bag of eggshells, and then I put my meats into, like my meat bones into the freezer, and then I take them over every couple of weeks, how often. So I love that it sounds like we're close to 7,000 tons. So yay, I'm super excited to see how that goes. Our next meeting is going to be on August 25th. The time is 8:52, and this meeting is adjourned. Good night.